You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis. And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, pop up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
I know karate, I know jiu-jitsu, I drive like a gangster when I'm coming to see you, see you, see you, see you.
A new year means it's time for a new home network that can keep up. With Cox Internet, you have the speed and coverage your family needs to stay connected. You'll enjoy Cox's fiber-based hybrid network with options for fast upload and download speeds. And if your household has lots of connected devices, Panoramic Wi-Fi may be the perfect fit thanks to its additional control features. Plus, with advanced security on Panoramic Wi-Fi, you'll know each connected device is securely protected 24/7. A whole world of connectivity is yours with Cox Internet. Learn more at Cox.com.
This is Derek's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
After the 3rd time jump-starting my car, I finally realized my battery was dying. So I stopped by O'Reilly to have it checked. They tested it right there in the parking lot. It was bad, real bad. But they helped me find the right battery for my car and even installed it for free. Now my car starts like new.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq, Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
Achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.
Welcome into the program, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Jen and Rick Show. It's been a bit since we've done this one, in between holidays and birthdays and health issues, and, you know, it is that time of year. But we're here. We're live. And we have lots of things to talk about, because apparently if you're not already lockstep with Trump, you're not actually a conservative. Just saying.
Yeah, that's been the theme lately.
Well, and then the other thing is, like, you've got, and look, I'm gonna say this up front. I do not have a dog in the primary fight. I cannot vote in Oklahoma's primary, so I don't really care who you guys pick, because I have no say. But what is annoying me is it was bad enough when it was that way in 2016 when it was just Trump. But now you've got some of the crazies that supported Trump in 2016 have actually got a lot of the same questions that I do. So because of that, they are all in for DeSantis. And now they're basically knife fighting with each other, and I'm in the middle going, look, guys, one way or the other, we got to figure out who we're going to put up. And then when we do, we got to figure out how to let them win, because if we don't win at this point, it's almost done. As a matter of fact, I had known about the whole Davos thing because they've been making fun of John Kerry all week for an interview that he did with the Rebel News dude, and the dude was like, "So do you feel like a hypocrite when all you guys flying here in your private jets and you're trying to tell everybody else what to do with their carbon footprints, etc.?" And John Kerry's like, "Stop asking me stupid fucking questions." He didn't actually drop the F word. I'm kind of surprised he didn't, but I did, because it seemed warranted, because you could tell from his tone that he wanted to say that. But then what scared me, and I was trying to find the audio, and I don't guess it's been dropped yet, but I heard this when I was working on articles for Twitchy, because I had other things playing in the background, and he actually is admitting that at this point that nobody in the WEF, and even he, should be concerned with who the next president is, because with the foundations that they've laid, there's no way to undo what they've done. He said it out loud.
And which has been the goal of everything from, and not just anything worldwide. I mean, that's been the goal of establishing the Department of Education, you know what I mean? Like, there's just all across the board, there's things like this that, of course, they've been putting in motion for a very, very long time, and grow the bureaucracy so much and make it such a part of daily life that even when someone can come in and change it, and even if the populace wants to change it, it's almost impossible to do so. You can't fire a public school teacher. It's damn near impossible unless you catch them with their pants down, you know, at the school with the child. Other than that, they go on paid leave. They go through all this kind of switching around. I mean, it's an ongoing process, and that's what they've done with every institution. So the plans are in place and it's set, and there's damn little we can do about it.
Well, and that's the scary part, because I talked about this, well, actually, I spent most of the show on it today during the afternoon show, because I fell down a rabbit hole recently, and a lot of things have just started freaking me out. Like the fact that if you really want to stop and think about it, they started dismantling our institutions officially. I mean, the groundwork was actually laid after the Civil War, because they solidified everything with the federal government, because almost said Reagan. Lincoln was afraid of there being the ability for another secession, so they basically clamped everything down, and that's when our philosophy started changing. That's when it went from these United States, which was basically understood to be a loose conglomeration of separate countries coming together for mutual defense, blah, 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 to a basically lockstep, we're going to have a federal government, you're going to do what we say or else. In 1913, two major things happened. They founded the Federal Reserve, and they established an income tax, which up until that point was unconstitutional. Here's the thing that I don't think most people know. The Democrats kept pushing this idea over and over and over again, and they actually got it done for a while, but it had a sunset clause, so at some point it went away. So the Democrats kept pushing the idea, and then they convinced the Republicans to put it to the states, to put an amendment to the Constitution. And of course the Republicans are like, well, there's no way that these people are going to be willingly giving up part of their paycheck, because up until then, since we didn't have taxes, if the government was trying to do something, you willingly had to invest your money into treasury bills to give the government the money that it needed to do its little pet projects. So it was literally, if you wanted it done, you had to help pay for it, and it wasn't anybody else's problem unless they wanted to help you. Well, that wasn't working anymore, so they came up with this idea. And then they convinced the Republicans, well, if you're so sure that nobody wants to do it, just put it up for a vote. We'll follow the amendment process. Republicans are like, sure, nobody's going to vote for this shit. And they voted for it. And we've had an income tax ever since. So for everybody that likes to say taxation is theft, one, they are right. But the whole, you don't have to pay income tax because it's unconstitutional and there's a sunset clause, that was true until 1913. Nobody talks about that. They also disestablished our currency from, well, began the process to separate our currency from the gold standard in 1913. When they established the Federal Reserve, which was a bunch of big, rich-ass bankers that came together and said, we're going to create the illusion of a government institution that is actually a private bank. So the funny thing is, we hear about all these private-public partnerships that everybody's been freaking out about lately. That shit's been around since 1913, and that was just the beginning. So while we've all been, living the dream, buying the houses, getting the cars, making sure our kids are, living the life, doing all the things, all of these people that have more money than God have been quietly behind the scenes orchestrating things that we didn't know about, we didn't understand, and now that we're starting to wake up from it, it might just be too late, and they've got us so busily fighting with one another that it may not matter anyway. And I'm not going to go into that much further, because then it would be like everybody just listening to my afternoon show again, and that's not why I have you on here. But that's what started me down the rabbit hole today, and then I heard John Kerry actually say the quiet part all the way out loud, and I was like, oh, no wonder Kamala Harris said it doesn't really matter, because no matter who they put up, we're still going to win. She said that too.
Yeah, and I do think, I am someone that, I'm a realist, where I think there's a decent amount of kind of having to really face this head on and go, yeah, it does look really dire. I'm not somebody, though, that says, well, screw it, give up, because there's nothing to do about it. And while it does seem like there's not much to do about it, I mean, you can ask any country that's fallen or that's ended up coming under dictatorial control or has found itself in the middle of a war. Absolutely, things can happen and things can change. Look at the president of Argentina right now, who gave it to WEF like it was nobody's business. So things can happen. I think we'd like for it to go in a way that is not unconstitutional and in a way that is not violent war. But unfortunately, sometimes that's necessary to implement real change and to take back, and for the people to take back the power from the elitists and from the government. I do think that I think that they are very confident that they are going to win. I'm pretty confident they're going to win if we keep on down the road we're on. I think that they're very comfortable in saying that right now because they've seen the writing on the wall and they've been duping everybody into this. I don't know. I feel like there's a large part of the media and a part of the Democratic political side, and not just Democratic voters, but the actual leaders and people that are behind the scenes and the analysts and the people that drive the campaigns and are making policy and all of that are absolutely invested in, like you said, pitting the Republicans against each other. But even beyond that, I think it's been pretty plain to see that they are absolutely invested in making Trump the nominee, putting Trump front and center, making him the bad guy, which allows him to be the martyr, which allows him to be, the one that we have to fight for justice, and we have to vindicate, and we have to get revenge for. They knew exactly what they were doing, and unfortunately, it worked. And I don't say that because I don't think that anybody should support Trump or anything like that. But, we're in a place where it's a full 8 years after his first run, and it was historic and it was monumental, and there was a lot of catalysts behind that. This time around, it just made sense to move forward in another direction. And I'm not even necessarily talking about DeSantis. I'm just talking about a new field. And I know Haley's kind of the old field, and I don't, she drives me nuts. But, as far as like on this stage, I think everybody, we've mocked Biden for so long and his age and all of that. And then to pump up Trump like this, when he could have been the kingmaker, he could have been the party leader without having to run for office. We would be free of all of the legal implications and all of that. But they knew, and they wanted this, just like they wanted it in 2016 because they laughed. Then they got freaked out because they were like, oh shit, he's actually winning. But they definitely wanted it to make a mockery of the party. And then when it didn't make a mockery of the party and he actually won and went, not just won the nomination, but then won the White House, they panicked. They couldn't have that. And it's been entirely predictable. They were able to capitalize on COVID. They were able to capitalize on some of Trump's missteps. All of that in order to gain the White House. And I think everybody, we've exhausted the fraud topic, and there's it's just such varying opinions all over the place about it. It doesn't matter, because the fact of the matter is whether Biden cheated, as the Dems cheated or not, they bested Trump's admin and they bested the Republicans. So whatever they put in place to make that happen, he could not overcome. The Republicans could not overcome. And so it's nobody, they haven't been in office for 4 years. And so absolutely this time around, when they have gone face to face for the last 4 years, particularly with COVID and all of the vaccine mandates and the mask mandates and everything like that, and you've got some of these stronger governors, it's no wonder why the Democrats would run hiding from Ron DeSantis and absolutely want to push somebody else. He's made them look like fools on more than one occasion and doesn't take their shit. It's just in a different way than Trump does. So wanting to push Trump again, knowing he's got the legal problems, knowing that something could drop at any time, again, fairly or not, justly or unjust, that's just the fact of the matter. He is under multiple indictments, and there are going to be things that are going to come down. Now, if any of that will be disqualifying, I can't say for sure. Nobody can at this moment, but it does present a major dilemma, and it should, even though everyone says that doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. It does matter. It absolutely does matter. His focus is split. There's not a way for there's issues financially. There's issues with keeping a legal team. I mean, all of this, if someone is going to take office, next year, it absolutely should be concerning, regardless of whether it is, wrongful persecution or not. I think everybody agrees on our side that at least some of it is. So it's facing reality of that. We're now back in this position where they have turned us on each other. They have propped up Trump once again. And now just look at what they did after the Iowa caucus. They went, oh, we're not going to show his speeches anymore. Oh, we're not going to give him much coverage anymore. Well, no, because now they can't risk. Now it's fine. They needed to prop him up in order to fuel the anger, fuel him towards the nomination, so that then they can have whoever ends up being the Democratic nominee, which may or may not be Biden, can easily hound him in the general. And so now they're like, okay, well, our job here was done. We riled them all up. We stirred the pot. We made this whole thing out of it. And now off we go. We're not going to cover him anymore because it doesn't benefit us any further at this point. I still think they'll end up covering him because they need the ratings, and it's always the people always tune in, whether it's to hate watch the pundit or hate watch Trump. People tune into hate watch, and so I think they'll backtrack on that a little bit. But I mean, I think it's all been a bunch of string pulling, and unfortunately, I think that at least the extremely online and super, into politics, MAGA patriots have fallen for it.
Well, so here's the one thing that I want to say, and I know that, I've had a love-hate relationship with Sean Hannity now for a while, but my biggest problem with Sean Hannity is I just watched him for a little bit again tonight because he had Trump on, giving him the most softball interview that I have ever heard in my life. I kept waiting for him to just, drop off camera as he climbed under the desk. It was that bad. And I'm sitting here and I'm going, look, with everything that Dr. Fauci has admitted in closed-door sessions with Congress that now is coming to light, I have questions. And I want to know why people that have supposedly been the patriots that are wanting to save America, Tucker, Hannity, all of them, are now just lining up to slob this dude, when, here's my thing. Look, I get it. If he's the nominee, I will have to vote for him, because I don't have another choice, because 4 more years of Biden is not going to work. But there are too many people that don't feel that way. And that's my biggest problem. But I still have questions that I need to have answered. And I've been asking them over and over and over again, hoping that, one of these times it'll come up that a bigger account will see it and push it, like sometimes happens. Because, try as I might, I'm still a little fish in a large ocean. But I'm trying. So I have questions, because when did Donald Trump find out that Dr. Fauci admitted that social distancing had no basis in science? Because if we're just now finding out, there's no way he didn't know before we did. When did he find out that Dr. Fauci was admitting to people that masking served absolutely no purpose, but it was being used as a pacifier to make everybody feel a little bit better while they were still trying to figure everything out? When did Donald Trump realize that the guy that he put in charge of the COVID pandemic response in America was also hastily trying to cover his tracks about the NIH involvement in the lab in Wuhan, who, by the way, just this week admitted that it's not a conspiracy theory that that it may have been a lab leak, which is the closest you're ever going to get to him admitting that he fucked up. But instead of, because he knew. I mean, and you explain to me how he didn't know, especially when it went from 2 weeks to slow the spread to we're just going to keep you locked up indefinitely. Somewhere along the way, Trump learned the truth. And Trump made promise after promise after promise when he was on the campaign trail in 2016 that I am not a politician and I'm going to help clean this stuff up. And when they're lying to you, I'm going to tell you about it. And then I'm going to do something to fix it, because that's what needs to be done so that America can be quote unquote great again. And he didn't say it that articulately, but that's pretty much what he kept saying over and over again. I'm not a politician. I'm coming in here because they are trying to get to you, and I'm stepping in front of them for you, and I'm going to help you get to the bottom of all this crap, and we're going to clean it up. And at some point along the way, instead of doing what he knew was the right thing, because you cannot tell me this man did not know before a week ago that he got played. There is no way. The reason I know that he didn't know is because if he actually was just finding out with us, he would be just as pissed off with the rest of us. And anytime he was on TV, he was, well, look, see, I told you guys all along that social distancing was bullshit. Told you guys all along masks didn't work. Told you guys all along that you should be taking the hydroxychloroquine and zinc. But every time I tried to tell you, they shut me up. That's how I know he fucking knew. Pardon my language. I am really starting to try to work on that as we get bigger again. But this is my thing. Nobody's asking those questions. I don't have an issue with him becoming the nominee again if that's what the country feels like they want. I don't even necessarily have an issue with him going to the White House again, unless somebody can pin his ass down and say, yes, I fucked up. I listened to the wrong people. But I promise you that if something like that starts trying to happen again, I'm going to do the right thing. Am I going to believe him? Probably not, because that's what he told us the first time. But I still want to know why nobody, and I mean nobody, is asking those questions. 6 months ago, Tucker Carlson was saying the vaccine was the worst thing to ever hit this country, and now he's I'm a shill for Trump.
Well, I guess that's my biggest issue with all of it is just the absolute inconsistencies. Like people that are extremely faithful, trying to portend that Trump is some super devout Christian. People that are super anti-vax, when he just even last week again patted himself on the back for his vaccine.
It wasn't like, well, you didn't hear it, but it wasn't. He did it again tonight too. I'm probably pretty sure you didn't hear it.
So, I mean, there you go. Like he's continuing to push that vaccine that they are all claiming is like causing all of these injuries and that has been detrimental, and they want to blame it on all the digger. He's literally taking credit for it. And then how do you rectify? I mean, he was there with Fauci every day. I don't think he agreed with him on every little thing, but he propped him up every single day. He stood on that stage for those press conferences, and then at the end of his term gives him the commendation,
a fucking medal.
yeah. So I just and then you go with, okay, so like it's even just the logic of well, he said he drained the swamp. He didn't drain the swamp. Well, yeah, but he didn't know that it was that bad. Or it's like, okay, but he hired the swamp. Well, yeah, but they lied to him. Okay, so he's not a good judge of character. No, I mean, they did it, but like they won't get him again. That's why he turned on them. Okay, but some of those people that he turned on actually supported him the whole time. Well, but he knew because he knows people and he snuffed out the traitors. Okay, so it's just all this on and on and on, round and round, circular explaining and justifying and rationalizing, when we could just be honest and not deify our politicians and go, like you said, I want an answer to this. I want an answer to that. I'm allowed to criticize him over these things, just the same way that I commend him for things that happened while he was in office that I was extremely happy about. It's the same thing as like on one hand, he wants to take credit for the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And then the next time around, he wants to shoot pro-lifers in the foot, and call them the reason, claim that they're the reason why we're losing elections. Not his endorsements that turn people away, but definitely the pro-lifers being too rigid. He blamed, he's talked crap about multiple states that have had heartbeat bills. And even though some of those states haven't lost a seat, they haven't lost anything in Republican traction, but that's something that he turned on, when that conversation went that way. So I just don't understand, like, not being honest about it. Like, say, this is my guy, I still want to vote for him. I have concerns about it, and I have friends that have done this. I mean, I know some people that are doing this. It's just what you see on the whole is not this way. It's just defend, even if it's completely inconsistent, even if it makes no sense, even if it's 100% hypocritical. Defend. And it's not just the defense. It's not just the spinning and the rationalizing. It's the then turning on everybody else that doesn't bow down. That is what is making me crazy. And I see it from some of the other camps, some too, on the, again, extremely online crowd. But for the most part, it's pretty much coming from one camp on a regular basis. And it's this, you're a traitor, you're anti-American, you should leave the country, you're a fucking liberal, you're a libtard, you suck Biden's dick. Like, it's all of this crazy stuff, not because y'all actually really disagree on much, but because you dare point out the ideological inconsistencies or failures of Trump. And so then it's like, turn on you and shoot at you. And if you put up anybody else that has demonstrated those principles and has been very obviously in line with what is more typically the Republican platform and conservative ideology, and has not only said the words, but done the things to back up those words, somehow lies are just made and they're the traitors too. And you can't say anything about them. Otherwise, you're being disloyal to Trump. And I'm sorry, I do not live in America is not a country. I did not grow up knowing that I had to be loyal to mere mortals that were politicians. And if they tell me one more time he's not a politician, I'm so over that. Yes, he is. This is his third time running for the highest office in the fucking United States of America. He's 100% a politician now. You could have said that in 2015. Even though I still argue when you get into politics, you become a politician. So it doesn't matter whether you hold office or not. But this is his third go round.
Well,
so miss me with that shit.
Yeah, my argument with that was, even if you don't consider him a politician, he lies like one now, so I'm going to treat him like one.
Well, I mean, and unfortunately, I don't think that's anything new. But yeah, it's like I just want people to be able to have real conversations. Like, I've typically supported Ted Cruz. I have had disagreements with him over certain things. I've certainly not agreed with some of his voting record, and I've been able to say I say so. That doesn't mean I hate him forever, piss on him, and die. It means, hey, whoa, Ted, I'm not into this, and I don't know why you did that, and why did you do it, and I want to hear the explanation. And sometimes I hear the explanation, and I go, bullshit. And other times I hear the explanation, and I go, well, I mean, okay, that's politics. They got to give and take somewhere, and they're on these committees, and they do these things, they make these deals. So, okay, whatever. But that doesn't mean that I'm like, oh, he's the worst, and he should soak away into the night, never come back and be seen again, because I disagree with him on something. If we all agreed lockstep on everything, then we really would be a cult. And that's what's freaky about this whole defend, no matter what. It doesn't matter. They can never say anything wrong, never do anything wrong. And if I ever say anything against him, oh my God, I'm disloyal and I might be banned a traitor. Like, okay, what the hell is this? It's very bizarre.
I mean, the other thing is, and again, I thought because it was on my feed earlier, there was a commercial that I've seen that I hope to God was not actually put together by his campaign, because there's imagery in this.
Oh, I've seen it. It's terrible. I mean, no, so it's not. So I saw several people talking about it because immediately it's not his campaign. It's not his campaign. And the problem is that the group that made it is absolutely people that have been affiliated with the campaign. So it's not that it is the campaign, but it's affiliation. And come on, guys, let's not pretend like we can't ever judge people by their affiliations. Absolutely, we can. When some of his top advisors have retweeted the account that put it out, when they have liked and been in cahoots with some of these people, like I guess there's some people that are affiliated with the campaign that have gone on shows and whatever with these same people that made this content, and they have been given special access and special privilege to Trump, special consideration by the campaign, again, interacting with them on social media, on TV, probably in person, but retweeting their content, sharing their content, endorsing their content. I mean, it is a tacit endorsement by the campaign, and that is, I mean, it shouldn't be surprising. Look at what he goes and says on True Social, just totally by himself. So, there's no, and I don't even care about so much like the statesmanly decorum. It's not that. It's just crass, and I don't know. It's just one of those things where you're like, okay, like when we really needed the kind of bolster up fight, there was something to that for a while. But at this point, everyone's just yelling at clouds. And there's no real owning the libs. It's just mean-spirited, crass, classless talk. And it's usually not even pointed at the libs. It's almost exclusively pointed at other Republicans. So it's just exhausting. There's Trump fatigue, and that's where I'm at. And it doesn't mean that I'm like, oh my gosh, screw you for supporting him, or you have no reason to. No, I think there are still reasons to. I have talked with friends and family that do. We've, and I can still name off decent things, about his former administration. I just look at this in a politically kind of in what way this actually how this can turn out politically to the benefit of the Republican Party and to the benefit of a Trump administration even if he were to somehow get into the White House. Because you and I have talked about this some before. Being under indictments, even if none of that precludes him from being in the White House, having the record that he had before with just the people becoming even more vitriolic about him and the hate and the complete divide, not just among Democrats and Republicans, but Republicans themselves and independents and just your common man about Trump because he's such a controversial and divisive figure. And then the fact that it's a completely lame duck pregnancy that he now will not have control of. He will not have control of Congress. And that's one thing you and I talked about before, too, that often gets overlooked, that when he came into the White House before, he had Republican control of Congress. And unfortunately, it was not utilized to the extent of which it should have been. But you will not have control of Congress, and likely what will happen, you'll have even less control than you do right now when you go into office in 2025. And that on top of being a lame duck, being so divisive and controversial, being under having legal issues that will divide time, that will cause you to have to be in court and deal with all of these other extra, other things that are not the country's national security, economic security, all of the things that pertain to actually running the United States of America, I think is all a very big cause for concern from just a very rational standpoint of looking about how this will actually work. And it doesn't look good.
I mean, I just, again, even if, because look, at this point, this is the other thing that pisses me off before we go any further than this. I have heard people like Kimberly Guilfoyle talking about how this primary is over. There's been one caucus, guys. One. Now,
and how many Iowa caucuses had been won by the Republican that goes on to win the nomination? 2.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I think this will be the
like
third.
1 or 2.
So I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I think it probably is because it's almost like people have just given up. They're just letting this go, and it's like, whatever, I can't do anything, so it's happening. But it's also, that would be an anomaly. So to historically say, this is not when we call for people to stop running. You don't call for them to stop running after Iowa. You let it go for a while, and I think that the other candidates need to get as many delegates as they can going into this through the next round of primaries, and I think they should still continue on well into March. Take them straight to convention. I don't care how many you lose. Take them straight to convention because we never know what's going to happen with all of these legal situations going on. And I think it's unlikely, but it doesn't matter. There still is a slight possibility that something could happen that will disqualify Trump from the nomination process. And like I said, I think it's very unlikely, but we never know. Things change on a dime. So I think the Republicans would be foolish not to have, and I think the DeSantis campaign, and even to an extent the Haley campaign, though I wish she'd get out, I think they'd be foolish to cut and run too soon on the off chance that is the case. And I think the Republicans need them to be, because we will need a strong backup in case something does go down. And if we're left scrambling, we will surely lose. We're already pretty sure to lose, but we will absolutely lose if that is the case.
Well, so I think this is what has everybody terrified, is I think they're afraid that the Democrats are going to play the long game with these charges, that he's going to be able to solidify the nomination, pick his VP candidate. And half of the people in the country right now that want Trump are terrified that he's going to pick Haley because they keep asking and nobody's answering. And so a lot of people that are that up until 5 minutes ago were like, look, if he gets the nomination, I'll vote for him because then most likely we'll just wind up with whoever his president is or his vice president is at the top of the ticket if they try to take him out. But now that everybody's convinced he's going to pick Haley, people that were 5 minutes ago, well, I'll still vote for him if I absolutely have to. Ain't no fucking way I'm voting for him if he's got Haley as his vice president.
Yeah, and I even know a handful of Trump supporters that are like, that will be my final straw. That may be what kicks it. Now, I still think they pulled the handle for him, but I know that there's some talk like that amongst Trump supporters and non-Trump supporters alike. It's absolutely a thing for them. And I think from the campaign's point of view and from just an overall political point of view, that, he's the brash and sassy one. She's the more moderate and tempered one. She can pull independence, they think, where he is super lacking because even fewer independents are going for him than did in 2016 or 2020. So you've pulled most of those away. So if you can get a candidate that could pull some of them back in. Now, some people say, well, that could be Ramaswamy, but I don't buy that. I think a lot of independents see him for the blowhard, baby Trump that he is. Wannabe. He's not. I don't think they're fooled by his bullshit.
Yeah, and a lot of people are upset with him anyway because, Trump was just bashing him like 5 days ago, and then 2 days ago he's on the stage with him acting like they're best buddies. I'm just going to put this out now. I think he should tap Moana.
Giggity giggity. Giggity goo. Stick around.
I said what I said. Because Moana is hated by Democrats, but let's face it, Democrats aren't voting for Trump anyway. There is a good chance she could pull a lot of the independent vote back in, possibly. Especially if somebody who's smart at marketing says, hey, look, if they wind up taking him out like we're afraid they're going to, you get her.
Yeah.
I mean, there are ways to spin this, and that's what I miss about the old Donald Trump, because he used to be a master of spin. Now now it's literally Hillary with a dick. This is my revenge tour. You're not going to take it away from me.
Yeah,
and it's annoying.
Yeah, I think that's one of the more frustrating things to me too. Is there's just so much time spent on the stolen elections, so much time spent on the phony indictments. There's so much time spent on the how much they hate me, they don't want me, so that's why you have to have me, and so much less time spent on any of the actual issues. And again, I back to what we said before the holidays. I think that I think he's been given a little bit too much credit for his snubbing the debates. I think this has been very much one of the few times he's listened to anybody else in his life, and his legal teams have said absolutely not. You cannot go up there and just talk all willy-nilly on stage and be asked about any of these issues and have to answer for them off the cuff. He's already gotten in trouble several times in court for things he said and done. So I think that was a very much more calculated legal response than it was truly Trump saying he refused to do it. But I also don't think that regardless if that's the case or not, that's not the rest of the field's problem. And I think they have every right to continue to call him out for not being there. And now Haley's done her little thing where she's acting like the next time I'll be on stage, it will be to debate Donald Trump. Otherwise, I'm not debating.
Dude, ABC,
great. Well,
ABC is eating her lunch tonight.
Awful at it anyways.
ABC is eating her lunch tonight for that, by the way, because they went through a lot of expense to try to put together a debate in New Hampshire, and since she blew it off, they have been roasting her all.
She doesn't want
night.
to debate because she's terrible at debating. She
Dude,
gets
she
flustered.
sucks.
She can't finish her points. She ends up making little snarky comments that don't land. And she doesn't have she's just not that quick on her feet in that kind of setting. And that's okay. Like most people aren't. That's why they're not politicians. It's not why they're not public speakers. That's not the big criticism, but I mean, it would absolutely make sense the way she would go ahead and shut that down, because every time she is on a stage, I mean, even in her town hall, she didn't take questions. She's the only candidate to do a town hall and not take questions. She didn't do it because I guarantee her handlers are figuring out she's just not good when being put on the spot with a question. She's had too many debacles because of it.
Well, and that's just it. She had when she was willing to debate, even back when the stage was fuller, she had 2 or 3 moments that could have been Reagan-esque if she would have landed them, but she screwed up every single one.
Yeah.
Every single one. And look, guys, I get it. It was admitted way after the fact that the only reason Reagan looked as smooth on the stage as he did was because he prepared for every eventuality, because that's what he used to do as an actor. Because he grew up, he was an actor in an era where for a while, especially if you were doing TV, it was live. So you prepped for every eventuality. So if something went sideways, You knew what you were going to do, which is why he seemed so polished and perfect on the stage. One of his biggest moments of all time was, I think it was Mondale. I think. I don't when his opponent in the debate pointed out that, you know, Reagan was really old, that age was going to be an issue, and didn't actually call it out on Reagan, just that age was going to be an issue. And Reagan looked straight at the camera and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I promise not to hold the youth of my opponent against him." And everybody just died laughing. And it seemed like just an off the cuff remark. It wasn't. He had prepared for that. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. But it's like,
but there's a chance, there's such thing, and especially when you're doing improv and stuff, as being prepared, you know, kind of like you said, for any circumstance and situation, and having lots of ideas in your head about how you would respond to that. So therefore, that you can, when you already have that natural born talent of doing so, and you're on top of that well rehearsed on doing so, then it doesn't have to be that it was actually scripted. It can be that it flows out very, you know, fluidly, comfortably, and seems very organic, and it mostly is. But like you're saying, that you are so prepared and you've thought through so many scenarios and how you will answer them, at least in some capacity, that you don't have to hesitate for a second. It's almost like you are reading off a script. And that's charisma. That is talent and charisma.
Yeah, it's funny because, I mean, and you can even ask JD, because 2015, I mean, I'd already been doing this for a while, but I was a lot more shy back then. Like, when we first did CPAC, we were sitting in a restaurant, and he finally just looked at me and says, "Motherfucker, do you say anything when there's not a microphone in front of your face?" I'm like, "No, not really." So that was, what, now, 8 years ago? So when I went to New Orleans in February last year, I met a friend that has become a really good friend since then. But it was funny because she kept going out of her way to try to embarrass me. So I went in to get drinks while she was getting gas, and went and got the drinks, started paying for them. So she walks up to the cashier, who apparently she knew, said, "Hey, this is my friend Rob. I found him on the side of the road and just decided I was going to keep him for a few days." Without missing a beat, I said, "Yeah, she saved my life. My ex put me in a kennel and left me on the side of the road." They looked at each other, looked at me, looked at each other, looked at me, and then realized I was smiling and just died laughing. And she looks at me, she says, "I fucking hate you. I've tried to embarrass you 20 times. 20 times in 2 days. And you always have a comeback." I said, "Honey, I do live radio."
You're like, "Yeah, this is kind of my wheelhouse."
But yeah, dude, please. Well, I will say that I honestly wish that, I mean, my honest dream ticket at this point, if I'm being completely honest, would be DeSantis as nominee and RFK as vice president, because the vice president doesn't really do very much, and DeSantis isn't going to be indicted, but it would give RFK the freedom to dismantle the Federal Bureau of Investigation and CIA like he wants to. And I really want those things to happen.
You mean not big on the new shiny big building?
You know, I really want those things to happen, because the other thing that I'm trying to make everybody understand, these agencies are not our friends. The CIA, the reason the borders are open is because the CIA is hip deep in everything that's illegal that makes money at the border. That's why that's why the borders are still open. It doesn't really matter who's going to want to try to fix it, because it can't get fixed, because the CIA doesn't want it fixed. I mean,
well,
you know,
I will say Abbott's doing a hell of a job trying right now and telling the federal government to go F themselves, and it's about damn time.
Yeah, I only hope that he has bulletproof windows. I'm just saying, because I give the man props. He has balls of steel to do what he's doing, and I am very proud of him for doing what he's doing. I kind of wish he was my governor, but he's not, because I live too far north for now. But the thing about it is if he keeps bucking the system, something's going to happen eventually. I mean, that's just like everybody's pissed off that the Epstein list hasn't been released yet. At least not enough of it to prove who's been where and who's done what. There's a reason why. The FBI and the CIA cultivated these people for years. Ghislaine Maxwell, or however the hell you say her name, has ties to the Mossad.
Well, I think, one of my conspiracy theory situations with the list is Not so much that they're like, yeah, if Trump was on it, they would have dropped it already. They would have showed you right away, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I'm not so sure. If they can't get him, and they knew they had so many other ways they were trying to get him, if they can't get him on one of these indictments, don't be surprised if something drops and shows Trump there.
I read the chat more when I have a co-host, Jeff. I just refuse to give your alien ass any credit. Just saying.
But you know what I mean? Like, don't be surprised. Or if it's, because that's the only one they can do it to. They can't do that. There's no record of any kind of crossover between him and DeSantis or him and Haley or anybody like that. So the only one they can do it to is Trump. And it just would not surprise me if there's some little tidbit released or found, if there's any sort of threat by a Trump nominee to whoever is the Democratic, I think they're still going to try to say it's Biden, but they could change that, but to a Biden presidency or second term. I mean, just don't be surprised if there's a little list drop, and maybe it sacrifices somebody. Maybe it sacrifices Paul Pelosi. Maybe it sacrifices, a leading Chicago Democrat operative. Maybe it sacrifices a blue state governor, former governor. Who knows? But they might be willing to do that if it was able to be a surefire hit on Trump at that point. Never know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just know that and this is coming from somebody that eats, sleeps, breathes politics, usually loves every minute of it. I'm ready for it to be over.
I know. It's so exhausting already.
It's 2015 version 4 of elections, and I'm not down for this. And the whole thing about it is, again, I just want somebody to ask him. I mean, put it this way: if the roles were reversed and it was a Democrat that was in office that did all the lockdowns and did all the things, and then all of a sudden we're now finding out because Republicans got control of the House that Fauci admitted that it was all bullshit, that we didn't need to do social distancing because they were just pulling shit out of their ass. The whole internet would be, if the roles were reversed and it was Trump in office now and it was Biden back then, what did Biden know and when did he know it? What did Biden know and when did he know it? What did Biden know and when did he know it? Everybody's like, well, it's Trump, and you got to remember, he just shines the spotlight on all the bad people and lets us figure out what we're going to do about it. No, he does not. He got played. He knows he got played. And I just want somebody that will actually be able to get him to try to answer those questions, to ask those questions. And I would be willing to be the one to ask him those questions, even though it meant that I would probably never see another dime in this industry ever again. I would still do it, just because I don't do this for the money. I do this because it matters. I do this because I have, in the 15, 16 years that I have been doing this, I have realized that both sides, when it comes right down to it, do not like the fact that this country once was free. I say once because the Patriot Act killed it. We just don't want to admit it. We are not a free country anymore. The beginnings of the end of our free country was 1913. The final nail in our coffin was the Patriot Act, and we're just all pretending everything's still the same when we have no legal rights at all really anymore anyway. And if you don't believe me, let's just look at the fact that it's now been made public that after J6th, the government went to a bunch of banks and said, hey, we want you to check bank statements and stuff for these particular keywords. Would you be a champ and help us out with those things? Because, they as long as they ask, they're not compelling. But of course, because the banks get money, all the banks have ties to federal contracts somewhere. If they don't comply, those contracts are going to be pulled. So all of us that have ever voted for Trump, that in any time in the last 4 years have purchased a firearm, that have ever on social media, even in a deriding fashion, typed out the letters MAGA, are all now on terrorist watch lists. Thanks to the Patriot Act. And we know this now. This was something else that Donald Trump had the power to fix for the 4 years he was in office, but he didn't want to. He was too busy, well, I can just fix it with a pen instead of going to Congress, because half of the Republicans don't want to work with me anyway. Because, let's face it, half the people that pretend they're Republicans really aren't. We have this cabal with Doesn't matter what the letter is behind their name. They all want the same things, and they want to establish a ruling class. Which, newsflash, they've already done it. They did it as soon as they passed a federal income tax. These people don't work for us anymore. We work for them. We spend what is free? What is tax-free day now? Isn't it like March, April, something? Now you work for like a quarter of the year before you finally start making money for yourself, because the first 3-4 months you're covering your fucking tax bill. If you actually work for a living, these people they don't work for us. We work for them. We supply all their pet projects. We are the government's batteries from the Matrix. Nobody's figuring it out, and it's pissing me off.
Yep, I know. It's true.
I mean,
certainly is.
That's the whole thing that nobody really wants to talk about it. If you go and you look at all the the director's responses and all the documentaries about the Matrix, it wasn't this big sci-fi story. It was a story about how we're all being plugged in and fed bullshit to feed the machine, and we all do it willingly because we think we're supposed to. Because
it's just the way it is.
Because we have the illusion of freedom.
Well, and this goes back to the beginning of this, this episode of what we were saying, which is, that it's meant to be this way, and grow it and make it more complicated and funnel more people into it and make more regulations and rules, and you make it nearly indestructible just by virtue of being a behemoth. That's bureaucracy, which is what really runs the world, not the actual power positions. It's the bureaucracies.
All right, so
the unelected bureaucracy are the worst, or some of the worst offenders of freedom and of Republican and Democratic principles that exist.
All right, so since I gave Jeff shit a minute ago, I guess I should do something nice, because he just put something in chat that was pretty cool. If you actually want to learn about freedom and America, make sure you listen to his ITC episode on Sunday at 8 p.m., because it's going to be all about that. Now, my last parting thought as we start wrapping things up. You guys know that I fell down a rabbit hole and started trying to figure out things about BlackRock, and most of their names are escaping me right now, but there's like 4 common companies that just keep kind of popping up everywhere. Here's where it gets interesting. Because if you start digging into the pedigrees of those companies, because they're everywhere. They basically they've invested in almost everything, from what we eat, what we drive, what we watch. And here's the thing: they're all owned by the same trust. So, and this is what freaks me out. Because when I first started doing this, way back in the day, I kept telling everybody that, getting involved in this stuff and starting to try to figure out how it works reminds me of a game that I used to play way back in the day on, I think it was the original Xbox, and I'm gonna mispronounce it. I know I am, but it's I used to always call it Deus Ex. It's DUESEX. And basically, what you find as you're playing along in this dystopian future is you play it all the way through, and then you pick one side, and then and then just for fun, you play it all through and you pick the other side. And then no matter which side you're fighting for, you realize it's the same asshole at the top. He's just made you pick a brand that you align with and sent you off to war to still make him get all the shit that he wants. I kind of feel like sometimes people that know things try to put them out in ways that don't get them killed. And I'm kind of feeling like that might have been the point of that game. Because, finding out that these 4 major companies that own everything all tie back to one place is really starting to freak me out. Like, bigly. And I may eventually put out a pedigree for all this stuff, assuming that I don't disappear soon. Just saying. Just saying. It's really I don't know. I'm starting to feel like Alex Jones. If I start yelling about fluoride making frogs gay, somebody just shoot me. Because I really am starting to feel like I'm falling down a rabbit hole I may not recover from. Just saying. All right, I'm shutting up now. I think Jen already hung up on me.
Oh, no, I didn't realize I still had it on mute. I was going, shh. You didn't say anything. I didn't hear anything. I don't know what you're talking about.
I was just, you're like silent the whole time. I was like, holy shit, she's figured out I've lost my mind. All right. No. Well, we got a late start, but we gave him a full hour anyway, and we didn't even take a break.
Yes.
So.
Yes, I think we've adequately vented on the main kind of the main focuses as of late. So I don't have a whole lot more to go on about.
I wish there was more to go on about. I mean, I will have some things that I've kind of touched on tonight that'll be more in depth tomorrow during the longer format show. But I mean, we've pretty much covered most of what really pisses me off, especially after that one troll kind of started going after you today, and I'm like, obviously you're like missing some key points.
All because I was like, and for anybody that doesn't know, I was just like, stop putting people on lists, which has been a thing that's been going on. Is they're like, oh, add this person to the list that was disloyal to so and so. Add this person to the list that was MAGA. Add this person to the list that was this. Like, so it's like, don't quit putting people on lists. Like, quit like acting like there's quit calling them traitors for supporting a different candidate, and like just stop with all the personal attacks. I think we can all debate and argue. I have plenty of Trump supporter friends that I argue with all the time. We do not call each other nasty names, tell each other we're stupid, but it seems to be the knee-jerk reaction like all the time for a lot of people from a certain camp to another, and I know they feel like it's the same way, so whatever, but I'm like, stop acting like lunatic leftists. Now, people that are truly being ugly and awful, like, I don't care, tell them to fuck off. But, you know, in general, when you're just approaching someone that is supporting someone different and they're not saying something super nut job and they're not insulting you like crazy, like, maybe let's just not all play that game, because those are absolutely leftist tactics, and I don't like resorting to that. But I have no problem telling someone how it is and what I think. And then if they don't like it, saying, well, too bad, so sad. F you. Like, that's fine. Do that all day. But, like, quit with this, like, traitor nonsense and making these lists. That's so ridiculous.
Well, here's the thing. So they just dropped a thing in chat. I'm not going to read it, but because it's long and it's all caps and it's Trump and I'm not going to do it. But here's the thing, and this is what I will be interested to find out. With as many of the different legal hoops that they've gone through to try to hem this man up, if it is wound up being held up by the Supreme Court that he has no immunity as president, people need to remember that Barack Obama actually caused the death of Americans with drones, and there's no statute of limitations on murder.
Yeah.
I don't think they realize the Pandora's box that they've opened up by going after him the way that they have. Now they're starting to, because here's the delicious part, and this is just something that I hadn't really talked about much yet. But here's the delicious part. So all of these laws that they changed in New York to go after him the way that they are, now Democrats are being caught up in the same nets.
Well, of course, and that's always what happens. Whatever side you're on, it's like always be careful what you're pushing, because it absolutely can be used against you too. This isn't like, oh, this is a one-time deal for this one guy that y'all don't like. Like, no, this is going to be used, and you set that precedent. You better think real hard about what you're doing. And they never do.
And again,
they never do. Also, because they think they're going to forever be in power and going to control how they're applied. That's the other thing.
And
that's really more of what it is.
The one thing that I will say about Trump's little caps lock scree here, the one part that he should have added is, because he's right, to a point, presidents should have full immunity. But that's why they have the impeachment process. If you are voted to be impeachable by the House and then actually voted to be removed from office by the Senate, that is the process of removing that presidential immunity. And that's what his attorney's been screaming the entire time. There's a process for this to determine if he should have faced criminal charges. The burden of proof wasn't met, because while it was found meeting the standard, he was basically found not guilty because he wasn't removed from office. So the thing about it is, again, Donald Trump is his own worst enemy because he's 80 years old, has like a 3-paragraph run-on sentence that's full on caps lock on True Social right now, screaming about how as president he should have the authority to do whatever the fuck he wants to do whenever the fuck he wants to do it because he is Mojo Jojo.
Which is not exactly the purpose of having immunity. That's it's not just like, okay, so you can do whatever the hell you want. It's so that, there are extenuating circumstances and there are tricky situations in which you cannot give full, exposure to because of national security and things like that. That it's like, if anyone's ever read a Vince Flynn novel, like Mitch Rapp does things that are illegal, but why he's doing them and absolutely outside of international law and Geneva Convention even. But what does he do? He freaking saves American lives. So it's like, okay, well, we're not going to get him on these things. And it's like, that's more what it's for, not just like, well, I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, and never face any consequences. But there has to be a like you said, like there has to be a protocol. There has to be a process in which you go through to determine, whether a president has operated within those rights or not. And they failed to meet it.
Oh, one more quick hit, only because I used to give Orty shit about this all the time with the whole pineapple on pizza thing. Speaking of falling down a rabbit hole, I fell down a history rabbit hole recently. Guess what? Hawaiian pizza is not Hawaiian. It was created in Canada. It was called Hawaiian pizza because that was the brand of pineapple they put on the pizza. So pineapple on pizza is a sinister Canadian plot to sow division in America, which now means that we must erase this abomination from history.
This all makes sense. This makes so much more sense. It was Canadian subterfuge.
And I'm telling you, it's all Canada's fault because we've been giving them shit.
Those damn Canucks.
Well, we've been giving them shit for forever because they've been failing to do their job as America's hat yet again. Because northern weather is in my yard acting a fool again.
I know, mine too.
Somebody needs to come get its drunk ass and take it back where it belongs. Anyway, we are really, really long, and I actually am under a deadline, so I've got to at least
alrighty
make it look like I'm working on stories before they make me give them up for the day. So. All right, everybody, we are going to get out of here. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Even those of you that were in the chat that were like, where are you guys at? Are you doing a show? Yeah, we promised we were planning on doing one. We both kind of lost track of time a little bit because I was yelling at a troll and came in here with like 2 minutes to spare. And then she was like, I didn't realize what time it was. I'll be right there.
Yep, I was putting up dinner.
So yeah, fun times. Anyway. So, just because I haven't put together an outro for this one yet, and this actually works for this one too, it's time for us to tell you that this particular show is over.
Over? Did you say over? Nothing is over until we decide it is! Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Hell no!
Closing time. Open all the doors and let you out into the world.
This isn't over until I say it's over!
Closing time.
Well, that's great. That's just fucking great, man. Now what the fuck are we supposed to do? Game over, man. Game over.
Closing time. Time for you to go out to the places you will be from.
What are you still doing here? It's over. Go home. Go to bed. Go to sleep. Bye, everybody. Yes, I'm stealing lines from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Bite me. Bye.